Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. This is an actor that I love. Mr. Harry Lennox, it is so nice to see you, sir. Thank you for being on Let's Stay Together show.
Well, thank you, Rick. This is great, and I am honored to be with you and your beautiful wife.
Well, my question for this beautiful lady is she's very modest, and if I can give a shout out to you, because I got approval for it, because this is my girl. I'm taking it back to Lolita from Steve Harvey, but I love all of her work and everything that she does. And she's a 3-time Emmy Award winner, so that's why I said she's modest, and I know you're going to bring to this movie the goodness that you brought to Debbie's little girl, because you was so good as a level-headed girlfriend that kept everything going.
She was mean.
She was level-headed. She was, but I love you.
Very
so you don't do mean roles. I love you.
If you would like to advertise on the Let's Stay Together talk show or be a sponsor, contact us at letsstaytogethertalkshow.com and call 708-713-4958. Welcome back to the Let's Stay Together talk show. Your next stop, the McCain train.
Now here is the Let's Stay Together show with Reverend Ricardo McCain and author Brenda McCain, helping you to rebuild your relationships with God.
Hey, and I'm going to tell you something. That was the quickest hour I have ever been a part of. You know what I love about shows like this is when you have a lot of informative information to help you out. It goes by fast. And so we've had an awesome time with Joseph here. It was Tellez? Did I say
Tellez. You have to,
Tellez.
A woman will say it different. Tellez.
Okay.
I'll tell you exactly. Well, so I pronounce it Tellez, but I pronounce it with my American accent. However, being Mexican, it is pronounced Tellez.
Tellez, okay.
Yes.
You know,
okay.
and so,
it don't even sound like the way it's spelled.
And since my name is Ricardo,
right? He Mexican,
Tellez,
the black version.
I always tell him I'm from the Sicilian side of the family, but I love that name. But one of the things I love about Joseph is that he's so informative. I guess this is the music going here. He's so informative with the information that he has. It's just awesome, the things that he does, and I love the passion that you have as well, Joseph. So I want to just talk a little bit before we go to another question. What got you so passionate about mental health disorders?
Well, I'll tell you what. I started out going into college wanting to be a teacher, and life happened, and I had my daughter, and I ended up having to leave school to be a father, and then I said I'm going to come back to school. But when I came back, I knew I didn't want to teach anymore. So what I did is I got involved with social work. It lit a flame and a passion just with really helping vulnerable populations and really providing a public service. And then I got introduced to the psychology component. And I learned about a man by the name of Sigmund Freud who really just lit a flame as far as therapeutic services. And I kind of really started learning about it. And I took it and I ran with it. And even while I was doing the social work, I really focused on the clinical piece because I pride myself as in being a clinician. So, I mean, I could have, did social work and did casework, but I said, no, I wanted to focus on the clinical piece. So I've worked with a wide range of different populations, adults. I was just talking to Mrs. McCain, and I was telling her that before I started working with children and families, I was doing substance abuse treatment. But it's an even wider range. But really, that really just continued to just light the flame on really becoming that professional clinician. But the helping service and really dealing with these difficult situations, I was born and raised in the city of Chicago and faced the same situations, as far as, marginalized populations, poverty-stricken communities. I was born and raised, I am a product of the Chicago public school systems.
Me too. Well, all three of us.
I say all of us.
And absolutely. And really just life experiences has was the foundation. And then putting the education really made something powerful out of it. And I just continue to, each day that I wake, day in and day out, I just try to be the best helper I can be and the best practitioner that I can be, as there are children and families' lives who I am helping.
Well, he does have a great passion for this. It's more than, I hate to say this, but it's more than a paycheck for you.
Absolutely.
Because I love the fact that you're reaching out to families with this. And most of the time when you hear the mental disorders and illnesses, you just think of the individual. I never once thought, okay, it's a whole family thing. It reminds me of alcoholism. It was more for the family to go to the AA meetings than the actual alcoholic. So this is very good information, people. So please do not be afraid to call in at 312-754-4333. I promise Joseph will not tell you something you do not already know.
And you know what? Give this
About
title.
yourself.
Give the title again for those who may have just came in the next hour. What we're talking about.
Our topic tonight is No More Confusion, the pursuit of restoring mental balance, and our guest is none other than Mr. Joseph Tellez from the LAYNIE Foundation. So please call in and join in, or if you're afraid to do that, just Facebook us, because we're about to get deeper and deeper into this, because I'm about to leave with this question for you. What are some factors that may contribute to a mental illness from children and adults, if you could answer that?
Life experiences. Drug exposure. Drug exposure is something that is directly connected with those that we went on break. We were talking about the younger children that I worked with, and these diagnoses and some of these behaviors and the temperaments. And there are studies showing that children who are drug exposed, their brains and the way that all of the wiring that comes together, it's not the same than children who aren't drug exposed.
So we're talking about from conception to birth. Now, what about when a person is a teenager and they get on drugs?
Well, absolutely. Well, that there is a certain, so even after birth, there are stages in life, all the way up until adolescence, that our brains are continuing to develop. So if we start to use substances, especially, at those at any time, they're not healthy for you. But when your brain is developing and it's continuing to develop and you're poisoning it with substances, it is going to alter, or it's going to cause a malfunction, so to say.
Now, what types of substances that can poison the brain while it's continuing to develop?
All of them.
Such as?
Alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, cocaine, heroin. Any of the substances is going to have some kind of impact. Okay. And that's just the physiological part. Biological, there's a predetermination. A mother with depression, a mother with bipolar, that could be genetically passed on. So there's that component. Then there's the life experiences. Especially when I say life experiences, I think of trauma, that PTSD that no one wants to talk about. And especially with all of the trauma and all of the crime and all of the tragedies that are happening within the city. There is so much trauma that not just the victims, but the people of the community who are, forced to endure these acts or all of these things that are going on within the city. There is so much trauma that is just continually, it is becoming a plague. And there is a post-traumatic stress disorder. That is an actual diagnosis. And depending on, there's different forms of it. But it can happen at any age, but it is by far more devastating at the younger ages.
Now, what is it called? PST?
PTSD.
Why do people only relate that to someone serving in the military?
Well, so post means after, traumatic, after the trauma. So the trauma over war, it's a war zone, and it's constant. I don't know if you've ever heard of the fight or flight situation.
I do. I had brain class.
Absolutely, and that was one of the most interesting classes. But that is where that whole sense of trauma, either you need to get out of there or you need to fight. But either way, that is where that trauma comes from.
That seemed like that's going to be it for the summertime in Chicago when we go back to Chirac. And did I say that? Sorry. Okay. But that just seemed like that's where that would come from, too, when people say, oh, girl, you should be used to it. Nobody should be used to murders going on like that.
No one should ever get used to something like that.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. But I know genetics might have a lot to do with it, because growing up, you see these movies like Sybil was the biggest thing growing up for
I love
us.
that movie.
Okay. But Sybil was the biggest thing. And then it was one that Halle Berry played in. I forgot the name of it. I thought it was an excellent movie with the different personalities going on. And people just make they make light of it. Like, oh, okay, she's just crazy. She got so many different people in her head. Why? I guess I'm curious to want to know the backstory of all of this. Where does that come from? People don't just wake up and just be crazy one day. It's a build up to this. Or is it?
Well, there's a word that's used, and it's called onsets. So what that means is where it came to be, so where it started. And, it's different for everybody. It doesn't look the same. Someone's onset may be at 10 years old. Another person's may be at 18. And, depending on what the onset of the symptoms are, it's going to vary from person to person, from life experience to life experience.
Joseph, one of the things I was looking at here, some statistics that I had, and I'm going to read off, then I'm going to ask you a question. They were saying that mental health disorders common in the United States, I talked about a little bit about this. They were saying about an estimate of 26.2% of Americans 18 and older, or 1 out of 4, suffer from a diagnosis of mental health. And they were saying this future translates to 57.7 million people. Now, they're giving some kind of a breakdown for this. Mood disorders, they said approximately 20.9% of Americans have mood disorder. Suicide, they're saying that there is an approximately in 2004, this is 2004, 32,439 people committed suicide because of a disorder. Schizophrenia, I'd say it right. Schizophrenia, approximately 2.4% of Americans have had that. Anxiety disorder, they're saying approximately 40 million Americans have anxiety disorder. Panic disorder, just going down the list, over 6 million. Obsessive compulsive disorder, 2.2 million. Approximately 7.7 million of Americans over 18 years old have this. Something I never heard of, generalization anxiety disorder, GLAD. Never heard about this. It is 6.8% of Americans have it. Sociophobias, eating disorders. There's so many disorders. So now I bring that up, Joseph, because I want to talk about the medical or the insurance side. Because a lot of times people are so afraid because they don't feel that they're going to be able to pay for this. But there was supposed to be a new thing called the Affordable Care Act that came out that kind of helps them. So let's talk a little bit about those disorders and the insurance possibilities that people get afraid of sometimes, that they don't want to bring their child in because it's going to cost too much. Are they covered with their medical insurance? Do they have to worry about issues like that?
So you got me talking about a slippery slope here, okay? Because I am a big Obama supporter.
Okay, and so are we.
And absolutely, being Mexican, viva Barack. Right? So I really am. I really am an Obama supporter.
Yeah.
And this Affordable Care Act was supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread.
Yes.
And it was going to fix all of our issues. And the changes have come. They're here already. And so political, my political stance is put aside. I am coming across countless situations that they do, these people who have specifically Medicaid, Medicare, and who have these who sign up for the Affordable Care Act and have these insurances, but they can't get services anywhere. Or if they do get services, they're now officially in what they're calling managed health care plans, which means that you can't go to your local hospital anymore. You have to go 2 hours away to this hospital that's under your managed health care plan. You can get behavioral health services, but if you're suicidal and you need to come to the LAYNIE Foundation, we can't accept your insurance because you're not underneath the insurance plan that we accept. So it's a very intricate, difficult. What's the word I'm looking for?
Complex.
Complex. It's very complex.
Yeah, and but I don't. But it wasn't supposed to be that way, though. What happened to the point where if you're right next door to me, I can't go to you, but I've got to go 2 hours away because the insurance. What I had thought is that all insurance was supposed to be covered, because I know Medicare is supposed to cover all kind of disorders. But why is it that some insurance companies will cover it, some won't? What happened there that caused that issue? Because I don't know if that was the plan. I don't know the plan 100%, but I thought the plan was supposed to be that an individual had the right to go anywhere they wanted to get the help.